We're live.
Oh.
Yep.
I should probably press this then. Okay. So today,
So,
we
title.
are we going to start with the idea that we're just going to talk about what we've been thinking about?
If you want to, I'll let you go first.
You want me to go first?
I want you to go
Mine's
first.
going to be long though.
Yeah, I'll let you go first.
Okay.
I got to ponder
Okay.
just a wee bit.
Okay, so I wrote mine down, and actually I just got more information about it, which actually kind of supports what I think about it. Anyway,
Okay.
so I spend a lot of time, talking to God and asking questions. I'm always asking God questions. And I was asking him, I'm always asking him about, relationships, what he intended for relationships, especially romantic relationships, because I feel like there's a bunch of, I feel like there's just lies out there, and,
Yeah.
and it's messed up everything that God intended for relationships to be. And so one of the things that I feel like was kind of an idea that was kind of put inside of me was this idea that everything that God does is to help us understand him more, so that we can know who he is. The whole reason why we were created, I believe, is because God wanted to share himself and all the things that he had created with someone. And that's why Adam was put in paradise. That's why he was, given everything. That's why God takes care of him, because he wanted to share. And I think that's shown in the human desire to have children, because that's why you have children. You have children because
You want to share your
you want to
life.
show them all sorts of
Yeah.
stuff. Like, I remember when you guys were born, like, I was super excited about, like, wanting to buy you Power Wheels and stuff so you could, isn't that sad?
Experience driving.
It's
Yeah.
like experience driving,
No,
yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, no.
that passion to want to share what you experienced.
Yeah, all the fun things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, I completely get what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's a domino effect. God created us.
Yeah.
We create kids, and so
Yeah.
on and so on.
Okay, and
And
so
so,
that's where
yeah.
I'm going with this. This is exactly where I'm going with this, because, I wrote it down so it's easier, but basically the idea was that when God created Adam and he put him in the garden, and I've heard a pastor say this, or a preacher, and they were saying, God said everything was good in the garden, except when he looked at Adam alone. He said, it's not good for man to be alone. I will make him, and I just saw videos where they said, like the normal idea is that it was a helper. I will make a helper. But actually I just watched a video that was talking about how the actual Hebrew word is translated to rescuer. So I will
Okay.
make a rescuer for him. And that makes sense to me. Like Adam is in this place where everything is perfect except for one thing. And God is going to fix that. He's going to fill that void, right? So, we all know the story. Adam, God put Adam into a deep sleep, and there's controversy too about whether the word rib is actually right, because I
Yeah,
just
I
watched a
heard.
video,
Yeah,
about
I
how
was-
it's not actually rib but side, and that goes along with what I feel like I was talking to God about, which was the idea that when God created Eve, he took a piece of Adam, because that piece of Adam became the seed to create Eve.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because God created Adam out of the dust, but
He could have done the exact same for Eve.
right, but God is over and over and over again using seeds, right? Like an acorn is a piece of the tree that it came from, and it grows into another tree. So using seeds is God's way, obviously, because he does it in everything. And if you look at it, like, there's lots of different seeds that God uses to create things all over the place.
Yeah.
So Adam had a piece of him taken, and he made Eve out of that piece. And so what I wrote, and I'm just going to read what I wrote because it's just going to be easier, but he created Eve and gave her to Adam and said, here, now you get to experience what it's like to be me now. And so the idea is that, God created Adam in his image. And I truly believe that the image of God that he's talking about is love. right? He wanted Adam to experience what it's like to love, because it says in the Bible that God is love. And
Yeah.
what did Jesus showed love,
Love.
everywhere he went. That was what he did. And so, and one of the most famous scriptures in all of the world is, for God so loved the world. Even though we were sinners and we had turned our backs on God, for God so loved the world that he gave his son, which we all know from, our experiences on earth, that would be a horrific thing to have to do, but he did it because he loved us. So love is the
Image of God.
right, is the image of God. So here's Adam. He takes Adam, a piece of Adam, creates a seed, makes Eve. And I believe what he did was, the reason why he did this was so that Adam could experience what it was like to be him. Because again, if God's primary goal is for Adam to understand God, then he gave him a piece of himself, or an opportunity to be like himself, with Eve, right? So here's Eve. All Adam is supposed to do is exactly what God does with Adam. And what's that? God's pouring out love and paradise onto Adam, and Adam, in that world, in that capability, because God has poured it out onto him, he's supposed to pour it out onto Eve. And so Adam's purpose, and this is important, because I think this is where men have been taught wrong. They don't think their purpose is to love. They're taught the exact opposite. They're taught to be stoic. They're taught to, and not like, we've had conversations about stoicism and benefits of being stoic, but I'm not talking about the idea of being able to properly regulate your emotions, or be strong in times when you need to be strong. Because we all have those experiences. Like, I have stuff happen at work and I can't break down, even though sometimes I really feel like
being
crying.
Emotionally intelligent, how to control your emotions and when to use what emotion at what time.
And knowing also that how you respond to certain things is going to affect the people around you. So there is definitely a benefit to being, like you said, emotionally intelligent, but that doesn't negate your purpose of being loving. In fact, the more loving you are, and the more you invite love into you and through you, I think the more emotionally intelligent you can be. Do you know what I mean? Like, that your foundation has to be that you care about the people around you in order to be able to function in emotional intelligence. Because if you don't care about the people around you, then you're not going to be aware or receptive to what they're feeling.
Yeah.
I told you this would be long.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so
tons of time.
So Adam's purpose became to love Eve as God loves us. And it says in the Bible, husbands, love your wives as Christ loves the church, right?
Basically repeating exactly what you said, just simplified.
Yeah. So, but in the fall, I think man lost his sense of purpose. And instead of loving Eve, he now uses Eve. And I feel like this is a controversial thing, but here's the kicker. I think love became lust. And that's why men are so focused sexually instead of on loving. Love and lust, when you're looking at somebody in love, there's a different process. And we started talking about this today, where you were talking about, you want to talk about what you were talking about?
Today you were talking.
So when you were talking about how the order of
jog my memory.
Okay, you know how you were talking about the order of basically how you fall in love.
Oh,
you were
the
saying
building blocks.
You said that.
Aspects of a relationship.
Yeah. So you were talking about how first you are like, the pastor that was talking was saying that you first fall in love with somebody physically, and then
love at first sight, basically.
Right.
But the way you should fall in love is with and you basically clarified this for me. But the order should be to fall in love mentally, spiritually, then physically.
Right. And you have, because you have to find common ground, mentally, and you have to make sure that you have the same values. And that's easy to see. Like we were talking about, like the example of if you go to McDonald's and they make, the girl's hamburger wrong.
Yeah.
And she goes up and she starts yelling at the people at the counter.
Yeah.
You know that you're not on the same, you wouldn't be on the same page with her. Like if a guy did that I was dating, I would be like, whoa, this is, that's not cool. You know what I mean? So we know that we were off. And so those little like red flags would show up. But when you start with physical, you can really attribute any personality or anything you dream up to that person. And then you have the hard heartbreak of, well, that person, the physical person that I'm seeing in front of me isn't real because I've made it up in my head. And so that's...
You create a fantasy personality of
Right.
that person, and then later on come to realize that wasn't the real person.
Right, exactly.
You had hopes that it was the person you were dreaming of, but it turned out not to be.
Well, and I'm going to say that the truth is that if we look at how men talk about how they see women, what that pastor was talking about is absolutely true. They look at the physical aspects first, and that I believe is lust. I believe that.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, but lust takes, right? Lust takes, love gives. So if you are a person, a man or a woman who's full of love, and you're looking for somebody to love, and you start looking for someone based on first who they are deep down inside, and then you start, because there have been people in my life that at first glance I wasn't interested in, or like I would be a little bit interested in, but then, physically, like I would be like, oh, that person's okay or whatever. And then I'd get to know them, and then I would start to like them more, right? So I think that the truth is the more, and I think it also goes to say that if you know a person, the deeper you know a person, the more physically attracted you become to them. So I think, and you hear older couples that have been together for years, they're more in love in their older years than they were
in their younger years.
In their younger years. And you're not talking about physical aspects, because we all know what happens as you age. You know what I mean? You don't have the tight butt or whatever. You lose all that. So
Grandma and Granddad.
but I mean, the fact that, and it's so true, because I mean, I know I've experienced that where the more I got to know the person,
The more attractive you were.
the more attracted I was to them. And honestly, like for me, I think personally, I can't be physically attracted to somebody unless I have some kind of emotional or mental connection.
Yep.
But anyway, so going back to this. So in the fall, Adam completely loses his purpose, which was to be like God,
A giver.
to Eve first, and then of course after that his children, and even the animals around him, which that's a whole nother story. But I think it's interesting to me that there's so many men out there that have such a disconnect when it comes to even animals. Like they don't care about the animals.
I know what you're talking about. They'll say the worst things about their animals.
Yeah.
Like, oh, if this cat scratches me, I'm gonna fucking punt it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
Like there's no compassion, no empathy for animals.
They don't
at
look
all.
at it as another living creature. They just look at it as an obstacle.
Right.
So.
Right. And
by them, I mean men that don't have that emotional intelligence to understand that it is a living being with feelings and thoughts.
there's a lot less men. It's a lot more rare for a man to overtly show care for animals than it is for them to say I don't care, or I don't want this animal. And honestly, that's probably a good indication of whether or not they can love anyone deeply, or they're willing to let that love out. But anyway, so at the fall, they lost this ability to be a giver. And I think part of that is that there's probably a lot of different layers to this. But if Adam had looked at himself and gone, I'm a failure because he fell, or because he gave in to the temptation, and I think it had a lot to do with Eve. Like that's a whole nother topic entirely, like why he would have listened to Eve to eat the apple. I think there's a big part of why there's such a butting heads between men and women in that itself. But if he had listened, or if he had been guilty or felt guilty or whatever, then maybe he felt like now there's like this ongoing or this thing being passed down through the generations of I'm not worthy, I'm not anything like God, so therefore I don't have anything to give.
It was that guilt feeling.
Right.
Yeah.
Condemnation does that. Condemnation is the one thing that will suck you dry, because when you feel condemned, you feel hopeless. And when you're hopeless, you have absolutely nothing to share with anyone. And that's probably why lust is so appealing to men, because lust is a temporary lust, which leads to things like pornography or objectifying women. Very much is about temporary satisfaction, right? It's about...
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yes.
Men are... okay, so like men's mental health. Excuse me. For example, like I see a lot of stuff pop up around how men are always depressed. I had a friend that said no matter what, every man will be depressed. And for a while, I thought that was true.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So for a while, I started noticing like, symptoms. But you know me, I don't believe in depression unless you believe it's real.
Right.
So for myself, I don't believe depression can affect me because I don't allow it to enter my life.
Right.
So a lot of men feel as though they're worthless because there's all this stuff going around mainstream media saying, oh, well, if you're a depressed man, or you are a depressed man because you have all these burdens and you can't share them.
Burdens, not the burdens again.
It's always back to the burdens.
Oh,
But,
gee. Well, and that's probably what the burdens are. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the condemnation.
Because they feel worthless.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and trust me, I've met a lot of guys who have been like, I feel like nothing. I feel like I have nothing to offer. And so when you feel like you have nothing to offer, what do? You take.
Right.
And what is lust? It's taking.
It's taking.
Lust and love. I saw a clip of Steve Harvey talking, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's always Steve Harvey. But he was like showing the similarities between love and lust. And I'll give a couple examples. I don't remember it exactly. But he was talking about how love and lust, you can look at a person and be like, wow, you're beautiful.
Right.
Like you are such an amazing person.
Right.
But when it comes to, oh, I want to give you, lust backs away and says, no, I can't do that. But
Right.
love's like, here's all my time, here's all of my effort, here's all my passions,
Right.
here's all my attention. But lust never gives, it only takes.
Yeah.
So we talked about this previously
Yeah.
on the podcast, but
And to add to that, I think that the moment that you see, so if you're, the difference between love and lust is when you see somebody who's beautiful or who's talented or who, is somebody that you're interested in.
yeah.
The one thing that love does is it says, I see it and I want you to know. I want to be the one to tell you and to show you how amazing you are, right? That's love. But lust, a lot of times, is a devaluing thing, right?
Yeah.
Because it's again, you're saying, I'm going to use you, but then you have no remorse when you walk away. Because the interesting thing about lust is that it's transferable. So you can feel sexually about one person, and you can take that sexuality and you can transfer it to anybody else around, right? You can feel the exact same way about one person as you can another one. I mean, I'm sure anybody who watches pornography can understand that, because you click on one video, you're feeling one way about somebody,
Yep. And then you click on another, and
then
it's
you can
a different
feel
person.
and you can feel the exact same way. But love is not like that. When you love somebody, you don't want anyone else but that person.
'Cause
Nobody else can fill that.
Lust is temporary, love is forever.
Is right.
Is eternal. Yeah.
Because love is real. The lust is just a feeling
Yeah.
that comes and goes, and it's a counterfeit, right? It's a counterfeit, and it's taking something that God meant for a purpose and misusing it. So when you look at it this way, like we think of a lot of times we'll group or a culture will group all sexual attraction into the idea of lustful behavior or lustful feelings, but it's not. It is apples and oranges, because the feeling that you get being sexually attracted to somebody you love is enormously different. It's so weighty and it's so real versus what you would feel for anything else, because again, it's transferable, right?
Yep.
You can feel it for anybody. It doesn't really matter. There are people that feel it for inanimate objects. I mean, it's we're getting deep here. This is
Fucking
this is good.
LGBTQ plus 8 A B C D E F G sounds like a fucking
but it's
sounds
true.
like a link.
Right, and that's why there's an emptiness
Sounds like
to
a
it,
Wikipedia link.
and that's why it feels deeply dark. It feels gross.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of feeling. People will feel gross when they're
Yeah.
when they're seeped in that.
After that temporary feeling's gone, it's
Yeah.
this guilt
Yeah.
that most men feel, and that's why they go to men's encounter.
There we go. That's a whole
They
nother
have that
story.
guilty feeling like, man, I did something wrong.
Right.
And, I need to go talk to someone about it. So they talk to people who have done it,
Right.
right? Yet the thing is that those people don't even know what to do about it.
Right.
Because none of
They're
them...
in the dark too.
Yeah.
Right. There's no
So
answer.
it's just being like, hey, I did this. Oh, it's okay, man. I did the same thing.
Right.
It's not okay. It's another domino effect.
Well, I don't
It's
even think
repeating.
that they'll say that it's okay. Like, like the Christian.
Not that it's
the
okay.
Christian
It's more like,
versions-
oh, I did the same thing, so I know
Right.
what you're feeling. There's
Right.
not that, oh, it's okay to do this. It's more like, I know what you're feeling. So
Right. Right.
the guy feels better about it and less guilty. When in reality, you should be saying, no, it's wrong. You need to turn away from it.
I feel like the struggle over lust is because the foundation isn't there to love. And so going back to Adam losing his purpose at the fall, what men need to realize is that Jesus paid the price. He stepped in that gap and he said, I fixed this for you. Now you are godlike again. And all men have to do is accept that. Just like all women have to do is accept that they're now forgiven, right? And so once you can accept that, then you can start to see the amazing things that God put in you and the amazing things that you have to share, and then go out into the world and share it. And it's interesting to me that that's tough for people to do, seeing the amazing things in themselves, but that's a necessity in order to walk in love, because you have to first understand that God loves you. Then you have to love yourself for real. It can't be fake. It can't be just, I love myself.
It can't just be words. It has to be
Yeah,
actions.
it has to be truthfully.
Yeah.
And then when you love yourself, you go, yes, I have something to share. And you realize then that what you have to share is actually something that somebody else needs. And that's another part of relationship that I think is interesting. Not to get too far off topic, but I watched this show yesterday where in the show, the woman was standing there and she was in love with this guy. And he turned to her and said, I'm no good for you. I'll ruin your life. I'm walking away from this. And she's standing there crying, right? And she's like, don't tell me, don't pretend like you're doing this for me. Because she said, I'll decide if my life is better with you or without you. She's like, and I believe my life is better with you. And he's standing there going, I'm just going to walk away, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the deal is that obviously it's his fear of failure in relationship or not being good enough that's keeping him from her.
It's that worthlessness that he feels.
Right, what we were talking about.
So he feels as though the only way to show her love is by sacrificing and saving her.
And that's what he tells her in the show. That's like almost verbatim what he says, what the script was. But the thing is that when I was watching that, being a woman and having
you are.
had what?
I said, I would hope you are.
I hope so too. I like being a woman.
We don't accept that
Yeah.
that bullshit around here.
True that, Theo. But like I've been in those situations before where I've had men in front of me and I'm like, can't you see that I need what you have? Like what you have is valuable to me. And it's not cars, money, I don't care about that stuff. I can make my own money, I can buy my own cars, I can do my own thing, right? But what I need is who you are. Like the things that I see in you, I like, and it makes my life better if you're here than you not being here. But I feel like there's a lot of men out there that because they can't see that in themselves and see that they had that to offer, they back away, right? So now they've said, okay, well, now they're purposeless, they can't love, and they're full of lust, and they just keep going down that deep spiral of, there's nothing to give, because as they go down the spiral of lust and dark sexuality and pornography or whatever, or sleeping with 5,000 women and leaving women in the dust, as you go through that spiral, you're not going to feel any better about yourself. You're just going to see yourself as somebody who's, going to create pain or going to create messes or mess up their life or whatever. And so that's basically, I mean, there's more to this, and I won't go on because we've been spending a lot of time on it, but
That's fine.
for this, I mean, I think that that's the first step that we need to address in the issues with relationship is Adam has a purpose. And his purpose was to be like God, to function in love.
Pour out love.
Pour out love. And Eve was supposed to be a blessing to him because her presence, her existence in his life was supposed to remind him of that godlike status. And I think women do that. Women want to encourage the men that they have. They want to be in awe of them. And that's part of what's so painful for women is that if you look at different relationship advice, videos or whatever, a lot of times men will tell women, oh, don't be so clingy. And don't tell your man that you love him too quickly, and don't give him too much, and kind of be mean to him and all this stuff. And that's playing to the whole you're not worthy side. But that goes against everything that she was created to do, because everything that a woman was created for was to encourage and to lift him up and to tell him how amazing. Be a rescuer, right? To keep him in a place where he understands that he was created in God's image and he's a king and he needs to embrace that and live it. And then if he does that, he's going to live the love of God.
Now, with that being said, Adam is in the image of God to Eve. So does that mean that we're in the image of Eve to God?
I think yes, because and that's part of the deal is that.
But how are we a rescuer to God? That's what I'm lost on.
Well, how is Eve a rescuer to Adam?
What do we
do?
Makes sense.
What do we do for God?
We praise him.
We praise him.
Yep.
We say, God, you made that cool mountain and it's amazing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we're a gift to God. We're a blessing to God through our understanding. I mean, think about it. It's easy. I remember there was a pastor that I used to listen to, and he said, when you look at Bible stories, you have to see these people as real people. And so when I started to look at these people as real people, it's like I had little movies playing in my mind, right? I could see the whole thing playing out. And one of the things that was really interesting to me is seeing Adam, right? So God creates the whole earth. He makes Adam. Adam's standing on the edge of a giant cliff. Just imagine this. He's got mountains in the background. He's got rivers flowing through. He's got eagles flying above. He's got animals that are coming up and cuddling up next to his leg. And he's seeing all of this. And he's in awe of it all, right? He's in awe. What is he saying to God? And then God looks at it and says, it's not good for man to be alone. Why? Why is it not good for man to be alone? Well, because of the reason that we just said. He needed somebody to make him feel, to make him realize that he could give to. He wanted to give now, right? Everything had been given to him. Now he wants to pour out what he's been given. So it's about sharing, right? What do you want to do when you see something beautiful? You want to share it with somebody, right? God makes all these beautiful things. He shares it with Adam. Adam goes, whoa, this is amazing, right? Well, it's the same thing for Eve, for Adam, and Adam for God. It's about sharing. It's about loving. It's about seeing the amazing things that God has done, and then Eve seeing the amazing things that are in Adam, and even Adam seeing the amazing things that are in Eve. But he would see that as the fact that she is all those things that God. I mean, I truly think too that women are like different. Women and men are different parts of God, right? And God does that for us too. He encourages us. He brings us up. So
he provides for us, but also encourages us. So he's both parties.
Right. So the whole thing is that it's the fullness, right, of the experience. And that's, I think, what was missing is Adam didn't have somebody to share things with and share himself with. And that's why God created man, because he wanted to share himself. And Adam needed to be able to share himself, which is probably also the awe of everything that God had made, his awe of what God had done. I mean, that's what we want to do. When we see something amazing, we want to
share it with everyone else. No, I completely agree.
Okay, I took up half the podcast. Your turn.
Half the podcast.
Yeah. I apologize.
Why are you apologizing?
Because I took a passive podcast.
You went down a great rabbit hole.
Excellent. I'm glad you think so.
Okay, so mine's a little chopped up. Okay, I didn't really have a whole lot of time to think about it, but I was trying to think of an experience that I have repeatedly seen over and over again. And this is for relationships or just behavior in general. But it's actions speak louder than words, and that's a term that's used all the time. And it's interesting because there's been people that say, oh, I'll do this, this, and this, but their actions don't actually project that. And so I feel like words hold a special place. Like, words can access a deeper meaning that actions can't, but actions truly show intention.
Yeah.
So I think that's really what it is. And in a relationship, instead of trying to trust someone's word, I would trust their actions before anything. So, and that goes along the lines of the mental, spiritual, and then physical.
Right.
So, because physically, you can speak words. Your intentions come mentally and then turn into actions physically.
Right.
So it's the same process. But that's something that I've experienced, that you should trust actions over words. So like I said, I couldn't really, it was like last second.
Can I ask like a kind of a challenging question?
Go for it.
Okay, so do you see now? Let me just say I agree with you completely, in the way that, in this way, that if the words and the actions don't match, you can't believe the words.
Yep.
And I think that's where people get into
It's
trouble.
a pattern.
Because we all long to believe for certain things to be said. I mean, there are certain words that when you're in a relationship, and you really care about the person, you're dying to hear, right? But, and sometimes those are said, but they're not meant. So that's definitely a thing. The actions and the words have to be aligned, but that's about alignment of the person as a whole. Like and that's a whole nother conversation. But here's what I'm going to say and what I'm going to ask you. Do you believe that words themselves can be actions? So is there an act of speaking
Like I said,
that is
okay, so words can hold a deeper meaning, right? There's ways that you can only show love in words.
right?
Only ways that you can express things in words, like a relationship needs communication.
Right.
But words and actions need to align with intention. So you have to find that person's intention. You asked, do I think that there's actions that only can be shown with words? I think, for example, a simple I love you, right? For men, I've heard multiple times, and I've experienced this, is that we show love in small things, like opening the door or grabbing the chair or buying you a little gift or surprising you or something like that, right? So little things that we show aspects of love in.
Right.
And for words, I can't really think of an example, but I can definitely say, like, what I feel is that, yes, there are some words that I feel like can speak louder than actions or show an action better.
Have you heard? Okay, so you've heard about the 5 love languages, right? You know about the
Words of affirmation, touch, gifts, giving.
Yeah.
Right. Then I'm lost on the other.
quality time.
Okay, quality time.
There's quality time. I'm like totally blanking on the other one. Quality time, words of affirmation, gifts, physical touch, and acts of service. And you know what's funny is that I can't remember acts of service, and that's the one that I least. It's like the furthest one from mine. Like I don't.
Acts of service is the last thing you do.
Is the last thing that
so
I would ever.
acts of service would be put under like opening the door, grabbing the chair, or something like that, right? And for women, it would be, now I'm not trying to be sexist, but it'd be like cooking their favorite meal when they get home, or something along those lines, right?
Like
Again, not trying to be sexist.
You don't want your girlfriend to hold the door open for you?
No, absolutely not. That's my job, okay? Damn.
I'm sorry, I just offended you.
Over again. I just wanted to one fucking...
Okay, this guy, like, we go to the grocery store, and I'm like, please, let me help you carry the groceries. He's got, like, 5 bags. You know how the Walmart bags, like, will, like, cut the circulation off on your arms. He's got like 5 of them. I'm like, just let me carry one. He's like, no, this is my job. I got to teach the men of the world how to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I gotta
know.
be.
Yeah,
I gotta
you
be.
can accept some help. A little
No.
bit. A little bit.
Not at all.
Carrying
Nope.
bags. Okay. Anyway.
You
I'm
pushed
not-
me the fuck out and I hurt, okay? Sorry. I was a pain in your ass.
Oh God.
So I get to pay you back
Actually,
by
you were
carrying
the
loads.
most chill. I just told you were the most
Yeah, I
chill
know, but, like,
delivery
still.
ever. Like you were like you,
Childbirth
You did
is a pain in the
everything
ass,
right.
is it
You let
not?
your water break. You were chill.
3, 2,
Yeah.
1, pop. All right, right on time.
Time to get out. Jiminy Christmas. You were like, yeah. Anyway, but you can let
No,
let some help.
no.
Okay. You
Acts
get
of
to
service
carry
are my thing.
cut off your circulation there.
Thank you.
I spent my whole life like trying to protect you and make you not hurt, and then you do this. But
Yeah,
anyway,
and I tried to touch mousetraps.
okay, but here's the deal. I appreciate all of your actions because actually, for you, like when I see you do that, I know on one hand you're trying to prove to yourself and everyone around you that it can be done, because I think deep down inside it's important to you to communicate to, like, literally to the other men in the world that this is how you should behave.
Yeah.
Like, you take this responsibility because you're stronger.
And the thing is
more
that I don't
capable.
see it as a
in that.
suffering thing. Like we were talking about suffering earlier,
Yeah,
right?
sacrifice.
And sacrifice.
Yeah.
I don't see it as a act of suffering. I see it as I'd rather you be more comfortable. That's
Well, I appreciate your
Yeah.
concern for me.
and I'm hoping that you find a guy that does the same, or I'm gonna beat
I-
you to a fucking pulp.
I hope so too. Except I hope he lets me help him because as
better not.
the woman on the other side, you do want to be a blessing and you do want to help. So just remember that, you know.
Your encouragement. You're supposed to.
Oh, you're so strong. Look at you.
and that will give him
You're not
encouragement.
even passing out from the lack of blood flow to
and
your
I know this
brain.
is really off topic, but here's the difference. When females encourage a guy,
Yeah.
it motivates them. When men discourage a guy, it motivates them. It's really fucking interesting. I'm
that's
not sure
weird.
why.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation.
Like, okay, so it's really
because you want to prove
Interesting.
them wrong.
Yeah.
You want to prove the guy wrong.
you want to show that you're more capable than him.
Yeah.
It's a competition thing,
And you
right?
wanna keep
but
the
thing
admiration of the girl.
Is it's different depending on your relationship with the person. Okay.
Right.
So if it's a female,
Right.
and it's your sister, and they're telling you, "Oh, you're doing a good job." For me, thank you. That's how I'd be. It'd be like, "Oh, thanks, for the support and all that."
Yeah.
If it's, your girlfriend or your wife, it's like that means a lot to you. Or if it's your husband, but we're
Right.
talking about how
Right.
it,
Right.
because women are supposed to encourage the men, but and vice versa,
Right.
depending if the woman has a passion, the man's supposed to encourage her as well.
Right.
For sisters, it's like, oh, thanks, I appreciate it. For your girlfriend or wife, when they encourage you, it's a lot more valuable. It holds a higher standard than something else.
Right.
And I'm not doing this in order in any way. When a friend does it, it seems unauthentic. It's more of like, this is my experience.
Right.
So like when they discourage you, right?
Right.
They're being rude. They're like, oh, you can't do that.
Right.
That gives you, it seems more authentic. That seems like their true words. And like I said, I know I'm going off topic, but like when a brother does it, that's like completely different. It holds a very similar value that it does because you're getting an approval from an older or younger sibling that is of the same sex. I'm not sure why it is, and I know I just went completely off topic of today's
No, I see.
categories.
I think what you're really getting at is that there's certain people in your life that hold a certain
higher value.
And when those people encourage you in one way or discourage you in another way, it has a different effect. And I think for you, like, guys are horrible to each other. They say the worst things. I don't understand this bro love thing where it's either homosexual or it's like, let's tear each other to pieces and make each other feel like poopy. I don't understand the dynamic there, except for the fact that, like, you guys are desperately trying to figure out exactly how you're supposed to interact, and it's just a little.
So we're gonna go back to the worthless topic. Men feeling
Okay.
like they're worthless. Okay?
Right.
When I see that, right?
Yeah.
And I go up to my best friend, I'm like, "Damn, you sexy," right? That encourages him slightly. Like, I know it doesn't do much, but it does something, right?
Because you're Because
I'm not sure how to explain it in a better way. Because I'm gonna let you know, I've never said that to a female in my life.
right.
Like, though that word "sexy" is never
Yeah, the things you say to your friends are just
are very different from what I say to my
really
significant
not right.
other.
It's traumatizing, actually.
You're welcome.
So,
You gotta get the experience
a
somehow.
little uncomfortable at times.
We get a little comfortable.
I get a little scared and feel a little bit defensive, like I need to step in and.
It's your mother instincts, like,
Yeah.
oh shit, predator.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. It's like,
Wait a
get
second, he's
this
the same
guy
age.
out of my house. He's going after my son. This is not right. I need to do something.
Even though I'm the one provoking him.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. I'm so confused. So confused. Okay, so.
But like, basically, when I say that I see that, like, I've had friends that feel like they're worthless, right? They have no value. They have nothing to give. So like when I do that, I know they're gonna be cocky and be like, "Oh yeah, I know." In reality, they don't really think that.
Right.
Like I said, words,
Right.
actions over words. But that little boost of encouragement, I think, helps. Definitely.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure for guys, if another
Even though
guy
it's-
says you're a good-looking guy, and it's even in a joking way, it just means that they have, somebody in their life that sees them as capable of, having a girlfriend or getting a girlfriend or whatever. And that goes to words of affirmation are important because that's what you're talking about. You're talking about words of affirmation. And that's the thing is that, like, my love language is words of affirmation and probably quality time. But for me, having somebody specifically tell me, like, you can tell the difference. It's interesting because words of affirmation, people just think, oh, you just want to be told, anything,
You're
random
beautiful. I love
things.
you.
Yeah. That's not truth. We instinctively know, and I think that goes for every single one of the love languages. If somebody is doing something for you, like an act of service, begrudgingly. You know what I mean? And that's painful. It's almost worse for somebody to do something and complain about it than, and because then you feel less loved. Then you feel like a burden, right? Or if burdens. He's got burdens. He's got a lot of them. He just wants his wife to leave him alone so he can think about his burdens. Leave me alone, woman.
No more Western guy, all right? No more
Leave me alone, woman.
gray beard prospector.
Did you say
Okay.
your brother actually likes that guy? I have to have a talk with him. Seriously. Anyway.
He doesn't agree 100%.
I hope not.
You don't like Andrew Tate, yet I agree with like some of the stuff he says.
Well, like, everybody has a little bit of
Yeah.
something.
I'm not gonna be like, oh my gosh, Andrew Tate knows exactly what he's talking
Oh
about.
my gosh,
no,
that's
he
just
really
sad.
fucking doesn't.
Nope.
You don't need 11 wives.
Is that what he said?
I'm not sure. I wasn't there for like the
Dude,
full
I think
interview.
He just wants a harem. That's all he wants. He just wants a room with women.
He's got it multiple times.
What are you talking
In a
about?
podcast.
Never mind. A room of women?
Yeah, it was him surrounded by women in a podcast.
Oh, gross.
Yeah.
Oh, that's gross. Anyway.
What?
Okay. Anyway, but
Oh, that's gross.
yeah, like I don't know. We'll get into that later. That's a whole nother.
Go ahead.
But
We're
anyway,
getting off track.
the whole love languages thing it really has to come from love, right?
Yeah.
So for me, words are important. So you were talking about, we're going to go back to what you were talking about, that the actions speak louder than words. And I think that in some cases, especially if you're talking about the idea that, do the words line up with the actions? Yes, that is incredibly, because usually the words come first. And that's, I think, where that saying comes from, is the words are said easier than the actions all the time.
It takes less effort.
Yeah, that's a given. But when you're talking about things like the idea of never, like, because there's some men out there that are very, very comfortable saying, or they're very, very comfortable never telling somebody that they love them, and hoping or deciding that their actions are enough. and I think that's wrong. I got into an argument with, it wasn't an argument, but it was just a discussion with family before about the idea that, you know, like the older generations, they were much more apt to never say I love you, but you just had to kind of know that they loved you. And I don't think that's right. Now, do I fault any of those people, you know, any of those men for not saying it? They were probably raised not to say it or taught not to say it, but
Because saying I love you was shown as a sign of weakness.
and it might have been. But I think the frustrating part is if you're never told, like, and there's arguments against this too, but you know, if you love somebody, like in my world, it's difficult. If I love you, the first thing I want to do is tell you, but it's genuine, right? Like, I won't tell you I love you if I don't love you. I mean, I say that, and I know that there have probably been times in my life where I felt obligated to say it, and I probably didn't feel it, but that was way a long time ago. But, and I know now
And trust
that
me, I
that's
know
not
exactly
something,
what you're talking about.
yeah, that's something that you learn not to do because you realize that it's not
It's
not
honest
helpful.
to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not being a genuine person.
And you do it, I mean, I think it starts off with you do it because you don't want to hurt the other person, but
Well,
it's not
saying
good
I
to
love
do.
you starts off because you truly mean it at the start.
That's what you're supposed to do, yeah.
But
Yeah.
as time goes on, if that relationship starts to fade, you say it to keep them around and know that you're not upset with them, just to keep things at peace.
Maybe,
is
yeah.
really what
I
it
mean,
turns
that
into.
that can happen. See, mine was the opposite. Mine was somebody told me that he loved me, and then I was like, oh crap, I should say this back.
Someone
I-
else shouldn't be telling you, oh, he loves you. It should only come from the person that says.
No. He told
Oh,
me, the
okay.
guy that I was with told me that he loved me, and
Okay.
I was like, I love you, but I know now that it wasn't real. It wasn't true. And I should have, it probably, if I had been honest, it might have saved, well, and I'm not going to go into what ifs because there's too many, you know.
Too many what ifs.
Yeah, too many what ifs that come after. So that's not, things happen for a reason. But
Yep.
But anyway, it's not good to tell people that you love them if you don't. But I feel like
Even obligation, it has to be pure intentions. You have to
Yeah.
have real intentions with the person.
Yeah, you have
So
to be.
you don't want to lead them on, and that because leading them on is going to hurt a lot more than just cutting it there.
I think what it all boils down to is whatever you do it authentically. You know, if you love somebody and you tell them, then mean it. If you love them and you have something that you do for them.
There was a
excuse
video
me,
very similar that you sent me, and it was Naftali basically talking about that.
Yeah.
Basically, some people will focus too hard on trying to be authentic, and that authenticness will turn into an act, is what it really turns into.
I think if you're always just doing what's in your heart to do, then you don't have to worry about whether you're being authentic or not. Like, it's not a conscious...
And that's what he was saying. He was saying that you shouldn't have to worry if you're being authentic or not. You
Right,
should just
right.
be able to be yourself.
You just be yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, you know, like, there's a lot of times when you are yourself that you'll do something. And Jordan Peterson has talked about this before. I was like kind of amazed one time because he talked about how he would say things and then he would stop and he'd go, wait, do I really think that or believe that? And I'm probably butchering, you know, how he said it, but
No, I get what you're
Yeah.
putting down.
and I've done that myself, like, especially with sayings, right? I remember there was like sayings that people would say and I would say them and then I got to the point where I'd stop myself and go, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Like, why did I just say that? I don't believe that at all. So, and it changed the way that I communicated. It changed the way, you know, and it was just because...
There's certain words you stop using because you realize you really don't.
don't agree with it. Yeah. So, and it's kind of, but that's,
Excuse me.
again, that's being authentic without thinking about being authentic. You're just, you start to question what you're doing to make sure that you're in line with what you really want to do. And that has to happen. I mean, I think that's part of authenticity, is truly just being aware of what you're doing and why you're doing it.
We are an audio podcast now.
Okay.
Welcome.
Oops. The camera went out.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we were going to talk about, are you done with what you were saying?
Yeah, no. I didn't have very much time to think of it. It was like on the spot. I feel
Yeah.
like you kind of brewed up a whole scenario very quickly, or it like, fermented over the past week or so, and you finally got to express it. I kind of scavenged all this shit up, and
That's okay. It turned into
it's like there's so much to talk about. Do I talk about a poem I wrote? Do I talk about an experience?
We need to talk about poetry too, because that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We have a lot of poetry between the two of us, so you can get.
Yeah.
We could definitely talk about that. But we were going to talk about the difference between faithfulness, like how the world views faithfulness versus what it really is.
Uh-huh.
Do you still want to talk about that?
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So we were talking earlier. We started this idea where we were going to talk about words and kind of dissect what the world thinks it is versus what it should be in relationships. And so we started with the idea of loyalty and how a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on loyalty, but really it's what they should be focused on is commitment. And so we talked about how loyalty
is the opposite of commitment.
Is the opposite of commitment because loyalty says there are other options, but I am choosing you. And commitment says there are no other options because I've chosen you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're going to go into faithfulness, because I think faithfulness has the same kind of fuzziness that loyalty had. And I was amazed, by the way, when you said what you said about commitment, because I had never thought about it before.
That itself was authentic. Like, that just came to mind on the spot. It was, because I forgot what we were talking about. It was, we were talking about work for you, right? And we were talking about brand loyalty.
Oh.
And then it swapped over to, oh my gosh.
Yeah, the choices.
Loyalty is only a thing when a choice is on the table.
Right.
When there's no choices, there's only one thing, and that's
right.
commitment.
And what was amazing is like a week later, there was a Naftali video that was saying the exact same thing. Like, it was like the exact same, yeah. So that was pretty cool to get that.
I will say, he's very aggressive about it.
Yes, I feel like he's very aggressive too, and it's hard because there's things that I completely agree with, and there's things that I completely disagree with it. But I had the same experience with like Jordan Peterson. Like most people on like that have short videos or whatever that put out there, and I see it's the same thing. Sometimes I completely agree with them. Sometimes I. Yeah.
But going back to faithfulness, I do think it's weird because I view faithfulness and loyalty is what builds commitment.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so like loyalty, like we were discussing earlier, you had the saying like loyalty is I'm holding your hand.
Right.
And commitment is it's like your hands are welded together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I came up with the welding.
Okay, that's fine. You like welding.
Yeah. I think loyalty is that holding of the hands, and faithfulness is averting of the eyes.
I think there's...
Because the heart sends a signal to the eyes of what it really wants. So when the eyes are averted of other women or men, depending on the situation or gender of the person, I think that plays a big part.
I think you hit on something.
Commitment.
You hit on the heart. And whether it's loyalty, faithfulness, or anything else, any other word that we'll bring up and talk about in this podcast is the idea that heart, what you want, what you truly desire for your relationship is important. I don't think you... I love those chocolates. You want me to keep talking? I want to. You ate one and I was like, oh yeah, they're there. That's cool. Those are like the best chocolates ever. So.
I muted my mic for a reason. Yeah. Now the camera's not on me.
Yeah, you can just eat away.
Okay, so back to what you were saying.
So faithfulness, right? When you're talking about, like, you brought up something that is very like painful for me. So there was a time where I was in a relationship and I went to I was forced in reality to go to this therapist. And he was discussing this idea that he basically put it out there. He's like, men are going to see beautiful women. That's what he told me. And women are going to be more beautiful than you. So in other words, the man that you're in a relationship with is A, going to see other beautiful women, and B, he's going to like what he sees, and he's going to like it better than you, is basically what it came down to. And basically what he said is his job is to, there was a technique that he described, and he said it's the darting of the eyes or something. Basically, it's up to the man in that situation, because he's wired to, and this goes back to the first topic we're talking about, and I'll pull it there and pull it back but it's the idea that he's wired to see beautiful women, to think they're beautiful, to think lustful thoughts, basically, right? And because he's wired that way, in order to remain faithful to the person he's with, he has to just dart his eyes. So in other words, this doesn't have anything to do with his heart. This was a Band-Aid that was slapped on the idea where your job, man, is to just look away. Look at something else, right? But all of the things that would be hurtful come in the fact that he would want to look. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like that he would find pleasure in looking at another woman.
Because right there you're describing that he's not seeing the full value of the person he's with.
Right.
He's finding value in other people.
Right.
And I think that's because they don't find value in themselves.
Right.
So they seek value and try to take that value.
Right.
And that's what it really is. It's that worthlessness.
Right. Exactly. And so that's where we get to the difference between love and lust, because again, lust is transferable to other people, because it's not, he wasn't just talking about one woman. He's talking about this therapist was talking about multiple women. Like he's going to walk down the street and see some other girl, and then he's going to walk down the street. So basically he was telling me that I was going to live a life where I was never going to be the one. I was going to be the
Loved
person,
fulfillingly.
basically, he's coming home with me. You know what I mean? Like the physical aspect of him would be in my house, but the emotional and mental state of him would be with
in
some
a
other
fantasy
woman
world.
somewhere
Yeah.
else. And he's not the only therapist. We talked about that book that I read that I threw at the wall multiple times because of the things that were written in it. Like I literally chucked that thing at the wall. I was so mad. But this guy was basically trying to tell people that seeing other women sexually was not only normal, but that he was trying to explain to the women that he was writing this book for that they should embrace it. Like I've told you before about the story in this book about the woman in the red dress, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, where
the
he's-
Christian author
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
completely goes against the word in the Bible about how to not look at anyone lustfully.
Yeah. So he tells a story about sitting
Excuse me.
across from his wife at a restaurant, and he sees this woman in a red dress walk by, and his wife is talking to him or whatever, and she's there with him, but he's thinking sexual thoughts about this woman in the red dress. And what he instructs the woman to do, the wife to do in that situation, isn't to be angry with her husband, but to go find a red dress and wear it so that he can live out his fantasies with her. So in other words, she becomes, for lack of a better term, an inflatable doll. And the fact that he would be okay, the fact that he would be okay looking at his wife and saying, you're going to become a substitution for what I really want is, there's no honor. It's complete shame. And to ask her to become somebody else so that he can live, that's not love.
No.
I don't, there's no other way to describe it. It's just not love. And so I feel like that's kind of the same idea as this other therapist was that you men are just going to live like this. And I think what he's doing, I think what both authors are doing, and in a sense, in a way, I'm defending the reason why they can have such terrible ideas is because they've accepted this idea that there's no hope for men, that this is how they're created, but it's a lie. And if you believe the lie, then guess what happens? You live the lie out.
Yep.
And you perpetuate the lie in every area. And that's what they were doing. Because guess what? If a woman is not there to say, husband, you're deeply hurting me, and I'm not going to put up with it because I'm not going to put up with somebody who doesn't really love me, well, then these men are going to lust after whatever because they're going to think, well, that's what I have. And they'll never fix the root issues, and they'll never experience the deep joy that you have in truly loving another human or being godlike. You know what I mean? Like, that's the devil's plan, right? That's the devil's game.
He wants to be godlike, so he'll strip that godlike
there you go
behavior and idea from every other man.
Yeah, he doesn't want men to be to live in the fullness of who they were created to be, and that's not just for sexuality. He's trying to strip everybody of the purpose that God created them for. And there's lots of examples where people that are living out their purpose now can tell you stories of how the devil attacked the very thing that they were meant to do through different avenues in their life, and they had to seek God and overcome those challenges, through Christ, to be able to do what they're doing. It's no different with the deep foundational purpose of man to be godlike in a romantic relationship or a marital relationship. But yeah, it was a very deeply hurtful thing. So going back to the faithfulness idea and what it means, averting your eyes. So you're walking, we talked about holding hands. If commitment is the welding of the hands together, well, you've got that commitment. And some people can make the commitment, but not be faithful with their hearts. And so you're talking about averting eyes. I think it's deeper than that. I think
that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
Yeah.
It's averting your eyes is like the darting of the eyes. But the real question is why does your heart want to look at anything else? Why can't your heart look at another woman and see her as a sister instead of trying to place her on the pedestal that is already supposed to be taken by your spouse?
Going back to like authenticity, right? Yeah. You just showed me that I shouldn't use the word averting of eyes, because that leads to what you were just talking about. Because in reality, my heart, when I was in any relationship, I truly felt disgusted when there was any other woman in my presence.
Right.
Like back again, when a friend would be like, oh, look at this hot girl.
Yeah.
I'd immediately look away, because in my heart, I was like, I don't want to see any other girl.
Right.
In any other way except as a sister. And in the context he was showing me was obviously he wanted me to look at how attractive they were. So you just showed me that to be authentic is to not let me use that term.
Well,
because averting of the eyes would be, well, there was the possibility of looking. Does that make sense?
Yes. But at the same time, I think you have to give yourself credit for the fact that it wasn't in your heart to look in the first place. And what you were trying to do with the averting of your eyes is the idea that you were making sure that you couldn't, that thought that was already placed in your head by the person or by the movie you were watching or whatever. Because again, you would do that when you'd watch movies with your significant other. You would, if there was a sex scene or whatever,
I'd put my head down, turn away.
Right, you try to look away from it. But really what you were doing, it's not that you wanted to see any of that. It was in the moment. That's what the movie was trying to get you to see. And so you knew by looking, you couldn't look at it and not be in a place where you could be vulnerable, right? Which was exactly what was happening with your friend. He was making you vulnerable, right? He was putting you in this place where he made it so that if you even looked, your thought process was already along the lines of a sexual thing rather than just... And that's why what we talked about last time is so important, that when you have a significant other, you have to make the determination in your own heart that you are going to see every other person of the opposite sex as a sister or brother. Because it's impossible. Like, I can tell you right now, like, my brother could walk, not that I want to think about this, but my brother could walk in front of me naked, and I'd be like, brother, I love you to pieces, but let's get some, you know what I mean?
Cover up.
there would be nothing there, and I probably wouldn't even care, honestly. I'd be like, what happened to you? Like, do you need some help? Do I need it? You know what I mean? Because there's no feeling there. There's no, like, it wouldn't be weird. It probably wouldn't even be weird. It would just be like
comedic.
maybe. Like, I'm trying to think of how I would really react, but I honestly don't think I would react with anything, because it wouldn't make me super uncomfortable. It would just be like, hey, do you need something? Or, hey, let me get out of the room.
You need a pair of pants?
Are you getting dressed? Like, let me get out of here so you can have some privacy. You know, like that kind of thing. Like, but it wouldn't be like something where it would make me feel awkward or weird, because he's my brother. You know what I mean? Like, you know, as a family, you sometimes have moments, especially when you're living in the same household, where doors get opened and, you know, whatever happens. So it just happens, but you're not, again, they're your family. So it's not, you have that relationship established, so it's not weird. You know what I mean? It's just, you know, something you deal with. But I think that if you don't have that established, then yes, every other person becomes a potential mate. And so that's when you get the real, and that's the difference between the heart, like, and the commitment. You know, the faithfulness comes in the fact that you've determined that this person is welded to you. You're one now. And then your idea of faithfulness becomes, this is the person I share sexuality with, and everybody else becomes something different to me. And the best way that I can describe it is seeing them as brothers and sisters, because then you can see them as beautiful, and you can see them as cool, and you can see their cool qualities, but none of you wants it for yourself. You want it for whoever else they're going to have in their life, or for themselves, or whatever. You're just celebrating the fact that they're cool people, and you share the planet with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's very different. But there's a lot of people out there that really believe that you can be faithful, and I put that in quotations. You can't see that, but I did. Air quotations. You can be faithful and still look at people sexually, and somehow if you look but don't touch, or it's not real. It's not true.
Do you mean committed? Or do you mean faithful?
No, like, people will say, I'm faithful to my girlfriend, and they'll turn around and they'll talk about how hot some girl is.
Is that not the same as loyalty?
Well, I think it's along the same lines. I mean, loyalty, I feel like loyalty, the word, just if we're getting into how the words are, if you say you're loyal, then it holds a little bit more of a less opportunity to look at other people. But I feel like in reality, both are treated the same. I'm loyal to my wife, meaning I don't have sex with multiple women. You know, that's what a man would say. I'm loyal to my girlfriend, meaning I don't kiss anyone else. I don't, hang out with anyone else. But, if they're in the locker room with the guys, and some girl that the guys are saying looks hot walks by, they have no problem looking and saying that she, whatever feature they decide looks good on her. And again, that's the difference between lust and love. If you're in love,
you wouldn't even look in that direction if you were in love.
Because you don't want to see anyone else, and you don't want to do anything to jeopardize the relationship that you have. And that's a whole nother conversation, like why men are so willing to risk it all just so that they can look at some other girl or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's like something I've always wondered. So, you think we've thoroughly covered what faithfulness is?
For the most part. Again, I'm a little confused with faithfulness and lust. I feel like they have a very strong common ground between the two.
Faithfulness and loyalty?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Faithfulness and loyalty. My bad.
Well, actually, I think both are corrupted by lust, so that makes sense.
Possibly.
I think that's the key factor, the difference between love and lust being involved in both of those words and being spoken. And really, this is what we're talking about, is just the accepted cultural expectations, right? A guy that is rooted in the normal expectations is going to think we're crazy saying that you shouldn't look at anyone else if you're in a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
because so many people have been taught you can look but don't touch, and that's the line. But my question is why do you want that to be the line? And my other question would be, do you want, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the golden rule, would they want their significant other looking at other people?
Some men
The way that they
are completely fine with that, and some women are completely fine with
I
that.
know, and it's crazy, but
Because
again,
why are you in a relationship with someone if you're both willing to look at other people and fantasize about that? What's
Yeah.
the point of that relationship? At that point, you're just roommates.
Well, I guess it goes down to, it comes down to a lot of things. Do you believe in monogamy? Do you believe, what do you want? If you want to be able to be with whoever you want. And then it goes down to also, how deep do you want this relationship? Like for me, I want the deepest connection I can possibly have. Like, I don't think you ever stop learning about your significant other. I don't think you ever stop discovering things. I think it just gets deeper and deeper, and I think God intended it that way. There's always a mystery to be unearthed or unraveled, and that's part of the excitement. But some people just really want somebody that they can know is going to be there on Friday night and watch a movie and have pizza, and while they go out the rest of the week and do whatever. So it depends on what you're really looking for, but I think it's a detriment. Like, I don't think it's the best way to do the latter, because I think you're setting yourself up for heartbreak. And sometimes I think people accept that because they think that's the best they'll ever be. And if that's the case, then that's why we have this podcast. Because I think one of the truths that needs to get out is that it's not the best that there is, and there is something better, and God has ways of getting to that place where you have a real deep connection with somebody. We just have to learn what he's saying and what he intended for it to be, which is the why, right? The why.
Your favorite question.
I know, it is my favorite
Why?
question. Why? But it's because why is all about the heart all the time. That's a whole nother conversation too.
Yeah.
Do we want to can we even do the video
No, I mean,
it might be kind of hard.
yeah. We might have to say that for our next podcast.
That's fine.
Yeah.
How long has this one been? How long have we been?
Hour 15. Yeah. So it's a decent length. I feel like, the viewers are okay with watching that long of a podcast.
Okay.
But surprisingly, we grew over 2 videos.
Oh, nice.
Quite a little bit.
Cool.
30 views on our last one. 12 subscribers.
Nice.
Yeah. So we're slowly growing.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah.
I think these are good conversations.
Yeah. I feel like if we do become larger, it's going to help a lot of people out. And I hope that's I think what our purpose is, to push forth a new agenda and open the eyes to men and women about what
Possible.
love really is.
Yeah.
And that's just this season. That's relationships. It's just this season. So next season we're going to go over something different, a new category. So, yeah.
Cool.
We want to call it there then?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay.